Firstly, how are the changing demographics and the ageing population impacting on workers' compensation?
That's a fairly complex question to answer. Certainly with the increase in aged workers, so 55 and over broadly, one would expect some impact on workers' compensation. There's a lot of factors that impact that. So in terms of frequency, they may be more prone to falling over, but on the other hand, they may have more experience and are therefore less likely to fall victim to hazards. They know the risks of their job better. Also, they may be working in different industries compared to a younger worker, which can impact what comes through as experience. On the other hand, they don't have as far to go as till retirement, so that can generally lead to reduced costs, not necessarily for them as an individual, but certainly in terms of workers' compensation. But they do need more time to recover from their injuries.
In removing the age limit for companies, how will that support the ageing workforce, and how do you think that that is achievable?
I guess the question is that achievable? So as I was speaking about earlier, if it's a fairly physical occupation, it may well be that the worker really just can't continue on in it simply because physical wear and tear over time makes it difficult for them to continue in their current occupation. So in those circumstances, it may well not be practical for them to continue. In less labour-intensive occupations, I suppose if you removed an age limit, that would allow them to continue on in that current job. That might remove the potential for them to have to move industries, have to relearn a job, allow for greater continuity, retain skills. So I suppose that can be helpful. What that then means for workers' compensation costs, I suppose it might have a mild positive impact because it would at least remove people having to learn a new job. But in terms of any physical limitations or impacts on those, I suppose regardless of where that worker goes, they'll have those. It really just comes down to what occupation they're in.
You just presented at IIR's National Workers' Compensation Summit 2011. What are the key messages that you'd like delegates to take away with them from attending your presentation?
I think the key message is that you need to understand what is going on in your workforce, and you can't necessarily look at historical statistics and expect them to provide an answer. That might sound very strange coming from an actuary, but I think you've got to look underneath the statistics, understand those different offsetting impacts, and try and create a picture of what's going to happen going forward. And just remember that each generation is not necessarily the same as the last, and so you've got to take account of that in planning for how you manage that risk. In terms of KPMG being represented, I suppose we do a fair amount of work in compensation areas, so workers' compensation is a particular area of focus. I think being from the actuarial side of that organisation, we can add a different perspective. So you've got your internal risk management, your claims management and so forth. So I suppose shedding a little bit of light on how to interpret the statistics, I think, can again help to analyse the issue and understand the complexities of it.
Laurel Kong, thanks for joining me.